pleasure to be here. Also a little bit of a surprise because I actually was only asked to do this talk less than 2 weeks ago. So it's a pleasure to be here. It's a topic I haven't actually ever spoken on before, but it's a topic that was one of regular discussion at GMC Council in the 8 years that I was a member of GMC Council. What happens to migrant doctors who move to the UK and how should we be assessing, how should we be trying to ensure that they land easily into the NHS. I've also in the last week Google and maybe the databases, the organisation doctors than I did previously. And what I want to do today is to speak about, we accept there are many good things that happen as a result of migration of doctors. I want to talk about the barriers or some of the difficulties that we might need to think about when we're considering doctors across borders. Some of the things I will say will overlap with the talk that Trudy is giving later in the day. We've talked together and we'll try to make sure there's no unnecessary duplication. I think hopefully you'll find it too should be complementary. So what I want to do is to cover the headings that you see here and relate them to migration about doctors, because that's what I know about. And if there are other disciplines in the room, I apologise, but I think many of the messages that I'll talk about in terms of doctors will be equally applicable to other health professionals moving across borders. I'm going to start a little bit, saying a little bit about health inequalities across the world. And I'm going to try and relate that to the health inequalities that we see between the countries that tend to receive doctors moving across borders and those that are the source of doctors. And we know there are enormous variations across the world, and here is some data from the UN about life expectancy. I haven't actually got the longest life expectancy in the world there, which is Japan at 84 years. But you can see the UK and the USA up there, and I put them in red because they are countries that will largely receive doctors who are migrating. And down below are a selection of some of the biggest countries from which doctors come who are migrating. And as you can see, the life expectancies in those countries are slightly less than the ones in the countries to which these doctors are moving. I put in the Malaysian value there just for interest. So, one health inequality. Here's another one, which is same format. The two in red are the receivers. The ones below are where they're coming from. And if you look at the health spend per capita, it's really quite a stark picture, isn't it, of the health spend in the US and the UK per capita in US dollars against these countries all in blue where these doctors are coming from, with the one exception of South Africa. Not entirely clear why it is so high in South Africa, perhaps related to spending on AIDS and so on. But if you look at all the other countries, they are spending something like 1/20th or 1/30th per capita on health of what's spending in the UK. And yet, the doctors are moving from these countries in blue to the US and the UK. Here we have some data from the World Bank, which is looking at the numbers of physicians there are per 1,000 population. And you can see across the world in 1990, in these blue bars, there were something like 1.3 physicians per 100,000 population. In the low-income countries, it was down about 0.1. And then as the income progressively rises, you can see the number of doctors per 1,000 population increases. That was 1990. If we look at the most recent data the World Bank had, which is 2011, you can see actually it hasn't improved. If anything, got worse. The countries at the lower down, at low and middle income, actually have not increased the numbers of doctors that they have, whereas those in the upper, middle and high income are increasing the numbers of doctors they have per 1,000 population. This is not all down to migration, obviously, of doctors, but migration of doctors does play a part in this. just putting some figures on that distribution of doctors, again for the countries we looked at previously. You can see again the very substantial contrast between the figures that we have in the UK and the USA, where it's somewhere between 2.5 and 3 per 1,000, and the countries in blue, where it's all less than 1 doctor per 100,000 population. So again, driving home this message, I think, that the countries where we're seeing large migration of doctors from tend to have inadequate resources to start with, and the countries that they are moving to, you might argue, are ones that are already enormous resource available. So, that was a bit about health equalities, and that's the context against which I think I want you to think about the migration of doctors. We think about the scale of immigration. Here's a slide from a group working in Oxford University, looking at the percentage of the medical graduates from a particular country who were working abroad. The first 3 on the list, Dominica, Grenada and St Kitts. As you can see, virtually all of the graduates are working abroad. And of course that's a false picture, because these are countries with large numbers of offshore medical schools, where students are going to train and then going back to the USA to practice. But if we look at the other countries on that list, somewhere between a quarter and a half of all the medical graduates that they have produced are working abroad at the time this data was collected. And in the case of places like Zimbabwe and Liberia, it is about half of all of their graduates are no longer working in that country, they are working elsewhere. And if we link that to life expectancy, again we see the same sort of picture, where actually the ones with the offshore medical schools tend to have rather good life expectancy, the other ones have rather poor life expectancy, again emphasising this link that we're seeing between countries that are exporting doctors and rather poor health outcomes existing in those countries. How many doctors are there? Well, this is again from that same Oxford study. Something like 70,000 doctors from India who are working abroad, 20,000 from the Philippines, 17,000 from the UK. And we'll come back to that in a minute. And then decreasing numbers, as you can see, for these other countries. The figure for the UK is surprisingly high, but of course that doesn't represent UK doctors going to work in less developed or poorer countries. That represents UK doctors who are immigrating to go and work in Canada or Australia or the USA. And I think what that figure does drive home to us is actually that the raw figure that we may see of doctors working abroad doesn't tell the whole story. There's a pattern of immigration that you might want to look at when you're thinking about it. Where do they go? Well, here's the data that was produced for 2004, which is the most recent one that people have available. About 60% of all these doctors are working in the US. About 20% are working in the UK, and about 20% are working in other countries in the world. So the US and the UK, between them, are accounting for about 80% of doctors who are migrating to the other countries. And here's another. And there will be things around personal lifestyle choices like sexuality and gender, which will differ substantially from country to country. And one of the biggest areas that doctors coming into the kingdom get in trouble with is they don't appreciate this, and they breach many of these areas. They're going into a different healthcare system, and so when there's a problem, they may not necessarily know what the right next step is. And that can be both difficult for them as individuals, of course, and also potentially dangerous for patients. They need to understand the healthcare system we're going into. There may be language differences. So, when you're coming to the United Kingdom, then there's a difficulty. Even if you do have English as your first language, there may be a difficulty, because the technical language may be very different from spoken English. And then, of course, there's the vernacular that is present in so many parts. And often you'll hear a parent in Glasgow saying the child is looking a bit peely-wally. Now, you can imagine that really throws people who don't know. What it means is they're looking a bit pale and not quite right. And of course, doctors coming from other countries, actually doctors coming from England, struggle with that particular sort of phraseology.
And then doctors, like any other immigrants, face potential mistrust, resentment or discrimination, both in their life in the general community, but also potentially within their profession. And Sam Everington, who's a GP in London, did an interesting study about maybe 15, 20 years ago, where he and a colleague submitted CVs for job applications. And the CVs were identical, except in one set of CVs there was a very traditional British name, and in the other set of CVs there was an ethnic minority name. And the group that had ethnic minority names on them had a much lower rate of being invited for interview than those with a traditional British name. So there may be all sorts of discrimination, perhaps a lot of unconscious, but the doctor who is moving may well face that and needs to know that is potentially something that they may face. So, what can the receiving countries do? Well, they can have immigration controls, they can try to reduce the numbers or quotas of numbers that they have. They can have employment controls so that you only employ a doctor from overseas if you can't employ a homegrown doctor. And then there are various professional controls that I'll come on to in a minute. However, all of these controls can be bypassed. And currently, for example, doctors from the EEA can move to practice in the UK without any foreign check. And one of the few good things that I think will come out of our crazy decision to leave the EU is we may actually be able to check EU doctors a bit more firmly than we've been able to do in the past. And of course, there are other arrangements around the world where doctors can cross borders without necessarily having any check on their competence or their ability to practice. So what are these professional controls? Well, there might be a review of the doctor's qualifications and their experience. There might be examinations of various sorts. There's ECFMG, USMLE and PLAB. I'm sure he's going to go into this a lot more detail, so I won't dwell on it. There may be specific training posts that doctors have to fulfill before they're allowed to take up a post for independent practice. And then there are potentially ways of induction or mentorship for the newly moving doctor. And over the last 18 months to 2 years, the GMC has run a pilot project called Welcome to UK Practice, which is for doctors moving into the UK to practice. And it's a combination of online learning plus face-to-face teaching. And what it does is actually talk to the doctors who are planning to work in the UK, not about knowledge and skills, but about some of the cultural things that we've been talking about what are the values that are in good medical practice and its associated guidance, and how do they relate to how a doctor might be expected to practice. And also a bit about how the NHS works. It's been very well received, and I think the hope is that it will become more widely available. At least one of the big locum agencies now is going to use it for doctors from overseas coming into their activity. But it's an example, I think, of the sort of way that potentially you may be able to ease the landing a little bit of the doctor who's coming into a healthcare system. So what about these sorts of responses? Do they work? I think you would say yes. And if you look at the performance of the vast majority of the doctors who come in the country and are assessed in this way, they do provide high quality care in the receiving country. And many of them contribute also to teaching and training and research. And there is no doubt that the high quality of care delivered by foreign medical graduates in the UK is, as I said earlier on, absolutely essential to maintaining the quality of care that is available. We also have some very eminent members of the medical profession in the United Kingdom who did not train in the UK. There's even one in the House of Lords, an obstetrician from Dundee called 9Apr17, who is of Indian origin and who has demonstrated that he contributed a vast amount to the NHS and to medicine generally. They do work, but there are a number of issues, I think, a number of question marks. And the first is that if you look at the fitness to practice data for the GMC, there is no doubt that doctors who graduated outside the UK are overrepresented in the figures. So as you'll remember, we said about 30% roughly of UK doctors are overseas, but there are about 47% of the complaints to the GMC over a 4 or 5 year period Now, some of those complaints are trivial, and the reasons why they arise are often complex, and some of it may actually be down to some of that mistrust, resentment, discrimination I talked about earlier on. There is some evidence that a doctor from an ethnic minority is more likely to be referred to the GMC at an earlier stage than a UK graduate from some of the data that the GMC has. But there's no doubt that they are more represented than one would expect. And if you look at those who go on to have some sort of sanction against them, where, if you like, the case has been proven that there's a problem, again, they are overrepresented. They're 44% of those receiving a sanction or warning as compared to being about 30% of the population. So, some difficulties that they are having there in adjusting and dealing with practice in the United Kingdom. We also find that they're overrepresented in less popular specialties, and here are some of the figures that are quoted in the GMC State of Medical Education and Practice for the numbers in various specialties, and you can see obstetrics and gynecology topping with over half of people in obstetrics apparently now being graduates from outside the UK, and the other three specialties listed there, somewhere just under a half of the people working in it are from outside the United Kingdom when they qualify. We also have evidence that if you graduate outside the UK, then you're less likely to actually get to a consultant post, and you're more likely to get stuck at a sub-consultant grade in your career post. And there may be all sorts of complex reasons for that. It may be related to the training they've had, it may be related to the opportunities of the jobs that they've had. Because not only do people end up in less popular specialties, they also tend to end up in less popular hospitals, less popular areas of practice, and therefore you have less support and less training. We also know that when you look at the performance of non-UK graduates in postgraduate exams, they perform less well than UK graduates. And I cited a paper there by Chris McManus and Wickford on performance in the MRCP and MRCP-GP, where the performance of those graduates who are from outside the UK was substantially less than UK graduates. Now, this is an international phenomenon. If you look at performance in postgraduate exams in other countries, you tend to find a similar pattern. And again, the reasons for it, I think, are quite complex, but it's undoubtedly a phenomenon that is observed in a number of countries. And it's another barrier, another difficulty that potentially the moving doctor might face. So, to summarise, what I've tried to show is that there is widespread immigration. It's mainly from less developed to more developed countries. That there are potentially some links to the inadequacy of healthcare provision and health inequalities, but that relationship is quite complex, and it can't be instantly put down to just being the fact that doctors' knowledge are moving. We've talked about the fact that some developed countries, particularly the UK and the US, are heavily dependent on immigration to staff their services, and that is really difficult to defend on an ethical basis. And also that there are significant other other problems that healthcare workers may face when they move, and those can, at least to some extent, be addressed by actions of the country to which they are going. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim, for an excellent talk. Now we're going to open the floor for a few questions. Please tell us your name and where you come from.
From Lim Kian Yi from IMT. Prof. What a dilemma we have. The data you have presented more or less kills the notion that we think most students come into medical school as their motivation, saying they want to care for patients. Because it shows that what determines migration is mainly the financial and personal professional considerations of the health professionals themselves. And it really contributes to health inequality of the world. These are the things we have stated. Question the conflicting ethics, and should regulators do something about it, and I think you have answered that question, yes. But my question is, then as universities and those who take in medical students, should the qualification really that be imposed be that they are really determined to provide care for where they are? Because if that is genuine, then there will be less migration. But is that a restriction that's unfair? That students are taken in, if they have less determination to care, they are more interested in that, they are less likely to get in the university. Do you think that criteria should be strengthened for intake into medical training?
I think the first thing to say is that I think the doctor who moves doesn't necessarily not want to care for patients and look after patients. They want to, perhaps in another setting, but I think they do still have a vocation to deliver good care to the patients under their care. As to the question as to whether entry into medical school should in some way be tied to providing at least a period of service in the country where the school is, I think a lot of countries are considering that. I think it may depend to some extent on what the source of the funds are. And I think that if an individual is being trained at public expense, by government funding if you like, I think you can actually make quite a strong case for saying that that investment should be repaid by that individual serving in that country for a period. I don't know what that period should be, but I think you can make a case for that. I think if, on the other hand, the individual is financing the course themselves, it's much more difficult, I think, to then say that you enforce and staying in any particular geographical location. The role of the regulators, I think, is more peripheral in some ways. I think what the regulators can do is decide on what are the qualifications and experience that you might want to see. They can perhaps decide on how you allow someone access into practice. Is it controlled in some way, whereby they perhaps go into a training programme, they practice under supervision initially, and so on. But I don't think the regulators have actually got a role in saying that a person can or cannot move from individual countries. I think that's down to really down to the legislators in that country and the society in that country to make a decision on what they think is the appropriate response. So yes, I think some sort of tying, if you like, I can see in some circumstances, particularly when an individual has been trained by their government, and particularly when it is a country where there is scarce resource.
Ronald Harden, really just to follow up to that last question, you said quite a lot about the response of the receiving countries,
Yes.
but what would be the response of the other countries? It was interesting, at the Ottawa conference in South Africa, Max Price, then the Dean, talked quite a bit about this. What would South Africa actually do about this? He had two suggestions which really we then put to the vote and were voted down. One was that the qualification of the doctors in South Africa should only entitle doctors to practice in South Africa, and it should not be a qualification recognised for them practicing elsewhere. And secondly, that they should have a period of 5 years or something where they had to practice in the country. Now, just expanding a little bit more on this notion of not just from our perspective what we should do, but what should other countries do to stop this flow?
Yeah. I mean, I think as to the first of those two proposals that was put, I think I would have no sympathy whatsoever with that. I don't think we should have a situation whereby, if you like, we're licensed locally but are not able to export that to another country that might recognise it. So I don't think that would be a reasonable solution. I think the second one, I think probably is one that needs to be employed more widely than is currently done. I think there are potential difficulties in implementing it. What do you do if somebody actually refuses to abide by that? Or do you stop by taking away their passport? So I think that, if you like, the policy decisions that would have to be done and the implementation of that is tricky. But I think many of the countries that are exporting large numbers of doctors, particularly what I've called unplanned donation, I think they should be looking at how they require graduates who've been trained at public expense. I think, as I say, people who are trained privately, I think, are pay for their own training, I think, are a different category potentially. But if they've been trained at public expense, then I believe that they should be giving something back to that country, and therefore enforcing a period I think is defensible. I'd say I don't know what that period should be. 5 years sounds like a reasonable time, but I don't know anything about the economics or how much return they would get after 5 years on the investment they've made, or whether it needs to be longer. But I've sympathy overall with it as a suggestion.
I'll ask another question. If we're restricting the number of immigration of doctors coming into the country, say the UK, it may well be that we've got to look therefore much more, as we are doing, at the selection. Because at the moment, if we're looking at the doctors match the population that they're treating, that happens at the moment largely because we have an immigration population, we have immigration doctors. If we cut down the number of doctors who are coming in from overseas, and we train just our own doctors, we've got to, I think, make even more certain that the doctors we're training in the UK match the population, many of whom are from overseas in the country.
Yeah, I mean, I think that again, it's if you like, a political or public policy decision, and it really is that we either accept that we cannot sustain the NHS at the level that it is, or we have to train substantially more doctors within the United Kingdom than we currently do. Probably an increase, if the figures are right, of about 1/3 over what we have at the moment. And that's an enormous potential cost. As you'll be aware, within the UK, the numbers of medical students are being expanded. We are told that that expansion will be a combination of students who go to publicly funded universities and also private universities. But if we are not having immigration, then yes, we do need to train more doctors, absolutely.
But we need to train doctors that match the ethnic mix of our population.
Yeah, well, in fact, if you look at UK medical students as a whole, ethnic minority groups within the UK are slightly overrepresented in medical schools. Now, it's not an exact mix of the different ethnic minority groups, but actually, as a whole, ethnic minority medical students are a larger proportion than they are in the population. And that is because, of course, many of these individuals are high achieving at school. They do really well and go on to medical school. So I think, yes, there may need to be a little bit of looking at selection, but I think you have to be terribly careful. Well, how far do you take that? You then say, well, actually, we're only going to 50% women, because at the moment it's been only 60 or 65%. So we're going to socially engineer the makeup of our medical schools. I'm really pretty uneasy about that, I have to say, particularly as at the moment ethnic minority representation in medical schools looks as though it actually does probably cope for the ethnic minority population within the United Kingdom.
We're going to take one last question.
Thanks. Anne-Marie Hennessy from Sydney. I just really wanted to talk about our obligation as educators to take education on the road. One of the things that was, I work in an area of obstetric medicine, and the comment was made by the WHO that there are more Filipino midwives in New York City than there are in Manila at times, and sometimes we see a lot of migration is because we want to upskill. So you go and upskill in a place that has got fantastic education, like the UK and US, and then you create an environment where you don't want to leave because of the resources or the lifestyle that comes. And the begging from the WHO was about us taking education out to countries that need that and providing that in a safe environment that means that they want to stay there. How do we use that thinking and responsibility to stop people leaching out of countries that need to?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right that there is a responsibility to do that, and that the individuals who receive that training undoubtedly can then take skills back. I think the difficulty is, do they actually go back? And a lot of the decision as to whether they go back or not is actually not within the country where they're residing. It's what the country they've come from is able to do to attract them back. And we know that certainly in the past and now, many doctors from the UK have gone elsewhere to train and never returned. And we know lots of doctors come to the UK to train and never go away. So I think, yes, providing training is important, but maybe then what we need to think about is how actually, what can we do to deliver training actually in country? And instead of them migrating to another country to be trained and then not going back, can we actually do more to deliver high quality training in the country that they're going to be working in, or you want them to be working in the long term?
That's my challenge.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone, and thank you, Prof. McKillop, for a very provocative session this morning.
The token of appreciation will now be presented.